In this session, we'll be talking about supporting localization of humanitarian responses with a focus on early childhood development in emergencies. I am joined by the leaders of 3 refugee-led organizations, Matabishi Narukako, Liani Kingibila, and Ismail Abdallah. Welcome to the studio, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Could you kindly introduce yourself and your organization? I'll start with Mata.
Okay, thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Matabishi Narukako. You can call me Mata in short. I'm Congolese by nationality. I'm a refugee living in Kakuma refugee camp. I came in Kenya since 2012. That is when I entered the Kakuma refugee camp. Since the time that I was been living in Kakuma, I got a chance of working with the NCSK. That is when I was been working as a community mobilizer. Then through the interaction with the community members, I got a chance of thinking of how I can help the community the way I found that they are living. I found that there was a need. There was a need in terms of education through the children. Because Kakuma, you found that in one class, you found there is 100 children in one class. I found that there is a need in that angle. That is when now I come up with the idea of creating Kakuma Vocational Center. And Kakuma Vocational Center, I started it in 2018. With the aim of equipping refugees, especially women and children.
Good morning once more. I'm Leani Bienveniki Bingila, also a Congolese from DRC. I fled my country since 2010. I joined Kakuma refugee camp. That was the result of the family-related issues or conflict that led me to flee my country to Kenya. Okay, when I arrived in Kenya, I joined IRC, International Rescue Committee, and I worked with them as a HIV counselor. In that experience of working as a counselor, I explore more about family issues and what people are going through in Kakuma. Apart from that, I joined Lutheran World Federation, where I worked as a teacher, primary school teacher, for several years, like 4 years. After that, I was promoted to be a head teacher, where I worked for at least 2 years. As a refugee educator, I find myself in a position to see and identify gaps that was in the education sector. And also, with the experience as a counselor, I was able also to identify what people are going through, families are going through in Kakuma. And with the experience as a refugee who lost parent and who lived with no support of parent, I was able also to see and to identify what children are going through. With all those experience and expertise in education, because that is the field where I was even educated in, I think that there is an opportunity for me to establish an organization that will contribute or may contribute in finding solution to what refugees, families, and children are facing, especially in education. And that is why I made my mind to create and start House of Hope Community. House of Hope Community is a refugee-led organization with main focus in children and youth. Thank you.
Thank you. Profound. Ismail?
Good morning once again. By the name Ismail Abdallah, I'm also a Congolese national. with origin from South Province of Congo, that is Katanga, the Great Katanga region. I fled my home country in 2010, which means I've been a refugee here in Kenya for the last 15 years. Yes, I have a very short story as to why I happened to co-founded our Refugee-Led organization. When I fled in Kenya, I happened to join college through the program that was known by then as JWL, that was operating as under the Jesuit Refugee Services. By then, after majoring in social work and community development, I applied to a certain position under Lutheran World Federation, and I worked as a CRM, Complaint and Response Mechanism. And for the people who got a chance to live in Kakuma by then, the Lutheran World Federation, or LWF in brief, was operating and delivering so many services. So we people or local staff, we were in charge of receiving complaints from or emanating from the beneficiaries regarding all the services that NGOs were providing by then. So by then, we happened to receive and collect so many complaints regarding the education sector, with overpopulation in the class, insufficient teaching resources and aids, and as a personnel who live under the same circumstance, I had to evaluate and see how best we people, we can also get involved to ensuring that we come up with an initiative that will also strengthen children education in Kakuma. So, reaching in 2015, June, I and other colleagues from the refugee status, we co-founded Faulu Productions with the main aim of supporting livelihood to the refugee community, as well as delivering foundational education to Kakuma children. So Faulu Productions is a refugee-led organization that was founded in 2015 with that objective. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us. So clearly, it is obvious to us that you started your organization from a place of your personal experience and engagement with children. Now, let's talk about your particular challenges working on early childhood development programs in humanitarian settings. Can you share with us the issues, the innovations, and the steps you've taken, and then the existing barriers that remain? And I'll start with Mata.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, by focusing on early childhood development, it is essentially because it lies with the foundation for growth of a child. Yeah, at Kakuma Vocational Center, we have come up with this initiative of having a bit space that helps a child at least to think creatively by creating their own games. And this initiative of creating these games, they start with the idea. Once they come up with the idea, they draw it on a paper. Once they draw it on a paper, they start prototyping it now by using those tools, what we call bits and drill. After they finish with the prototype, now they come up with the games or toys that they have created. But reaching at that point, we have seen that we can't end up from there. We want to connect now this bit space to make a space where now they code by using Scratch, where they use also Minecraft. After using that Minecraft, now the challenge is now merging the code to the circuit playground. Now it become a challenge for the kids.
Fantastic,
yes.
Fantastic. All right, I'll now go to Liani. I would like to bring you in from the point of climate. Climate and early childhood development and emergencies are not usually two things in the same conversation, but I know you do some work in that area. Can you tell us more?
Okay, at HHC, or House of Hope Community, we are dealing with early childhood education or program. In that program, we have found that it is good to bring community engagement or to have idea of calling parent to more supporting our initiative and to support their children on their development. In that, in the sessions of social emotional learning, we do engage parent in climate issues or climate matters, and that is why we have come up with idea of coming up with a project called Eco Camp. And in that project, we are engaging our children in tree planting. We teach them how to develop our ecosystem, or how to protect ourselves from the dangerous climate of arid climate that we are living in Kakuma. So because we have identified that in Kakuma, due to the climate that we are living in of semi-arid, that caused many challenges, and one of the solutions that we can come up with is by planting trees. Apart from planting trees, we also engage parents, mothers, and fathers of those children in how they can promote the nutrition of their children by having kitchen garden. And also, we also do little initiative of coming up with ways of solving challenges regarding to the traditional ways of cooking and lack of stoves that people are facing. As you can understand that in Kakuma, other organizations like UNHCR and other organizations, they do support a matter of stove when the refugees are coming in Kakuma. When they are joining Kakuma community, they give them the stove. But when those stoves come to, they get spoiled, or when they are broken, they will not get another stove. And it is a challenge for them. For that reason, they use traditional ways of cooking that use a lot of firewood or use a lot of charcoals, and the economy cannot afford them to be using that expensive firewood and charcoal. That is why we have come up with an idea of constructing efficient stove from our local available materials. That is what we are teaching parents on how to save or how to help their children from the indoors air pollution, which is caused by smoke, which is generated from the traditional ways of cooking. Those are the way that we are doing.
Thank you so much. And I can see the stove, the efficient stove, right here on the screen. Have you ever had any challenge around scaling it or mass producing it? What are your plans around this product?
Yes, we have many people who are skilled on how to make even different stove and in different kind. But the problem is that the capacity of our resources cannot afford the things that maybe they know how to make. But the only thing that we can do is only to construct from the local materials that are available, and we only train people. We can do this and that, and you have a stove.
To build on that idea, Ismail, I would like to bring you in. I recall you talking about some ways you've tried to fundraise before. Can you tell us more on the challenges you faced?
Yeah, sure. Throughout our delivery on education system, our organization, because we have a huge number of beneficiaries or learners every year willing to join our program. Because we people, the reason as to why we came up with this initiative of delivering education to the marginalized community, it is because, first of all, Kakuma Refugee Camp is hosting more than 11 nationalities from different countries and the background. So when those refugees fled their home countries and joining the Kakuma refugee and the Kalobe settlement areas, some of them, they already learned in their home countries, their home curriculum. So reaching to Kakuma, it becomes somehow a challenging issue for them to adapt to the new system of learning or of education. So we people, what we decided to do in order to bring them on board, to bring them on page so that they can also get at the same point as their colleagues who have been learning under the Kenyan curriculum for too long. We have been offering remedial classes for primary school learners. That is being done or held in the afternoon. Apart from that, we happen to find out that there is a big need when it comes for early childhood development education. The numbers of kids willing to join preschool education in Kakuma every year is always huge compared to the number of kindergarten schools around or built by UNCR and its affiliate agencies. So, as a local initiative, we established an early childhood or a kindergarten school of which has been delivering the formal curriculum to the refugee kids in Kakuma refugee camp. In the meantime, we also extended the same program through social and emotional learning by bringing on board parental caretakers and teachers so that they can work in parallel to ensuring that children's education is fully offered and they meet the criteria for the bright future of the society. So we people has been struggling hard to ensuring that our services are of good quality and we can also upgrade our capacity. And there is a time, it was last year, we happened to reach out to a German organization that was willing to join for us 6 more classrooms, permanent ones. But we happened not to secure it because they recommended us to have an international organization of which will receive that funding to construct schools for us. So that organization will receive that funding and they become our evaluators, something of which we were not successful. We struggled hard to ensuring that we get as that organization, but it was somehow impossible. We went up to UNCR and other organizations, including the German cooperation, but their policies were not sufficient to ensuring that they can work on our side. So more, or in addition to that, we also face challenge of resources. Comparing to the huge number of beneficiaries we do receive and we are willing to support, and the capacity and the resources, it is a very big challenging. Though there are those NGOs that come on board and help us, like our comrade, let me call them comrade, those are our donors, policymakers. Yeah. I also agree that we need to work on decolonization, but at this level, we also need some kind of support to ensuring that we reach at that stage in a more positive way. So policymakers has been somehow supportive to us to ensuring that we are able to reach that further mile, though in a more limited way. But we recognize their support. So those are some of the challenges that we people do face in terms of delivering education to the refugee kids. More than that, we also face the challenges on play materials. You know, there is no way you can deliver foundational education to the kid without play materials, because they take a very crucial role to ensuring that children are able to understand what they are being taught. But with our limited capacity in terms of resources, our very low status that hinder most of donors, international and governmental organizations to trust us with big funding or with support, it makes us not to fulfill our dreams and our strategic plan. So at most of the time, you happen to see that we people have a very good plan and vision, but most of which remain unimplemented due to lack of what? Resources and more donors, philanthropy, who will come and invest through us. So those are some of the challenges that we face throughout while implementing the education in Kakuma refugee camp. But with all those remarks, we have been trying our level best through our local capacity to ensuring that we can do something. For instance, with the remedial classes that we have been delivering, since we did not have enough classrooms to accommodate all of those programs, we happened to have a discussion with church leaders whom agreed such kind of program to be passing through their churches in the afternoon. So we happen to have maybe 4 classes in various locations, but under the same coverage areas. So those are some of the challenges, and I would wish more people are here. We can see how together we can collaborate to ensuring that we overcome them.
Thank you, Ismail, for your submission. If you're just joining us, we have been talking about barriers and solutions to supporting locally led organizations and refugee-led organizations. And in the studio with me are leaders of 3 refugee-led organizations, and so far, they shared some issues, the innovations they are also taking, the steps they are taking to identify or tackle the issue, as well as some existing barriers. In a minute, we'll go on a short break where we'll get some time to reflect and come back to summarize our conversation. But before then, I have a final question for my guests. If you have an opportunity to ask anyone in the humanitarian sector a question, who will it be and what will be that question? If you have an opportunity to sit down with any player in the humanitarian system, who will it be and what question will you ask them?
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, my question is, since we have gotten a grant from podcast, my question is, how can the rest of the team now, how can a national and international organization collaborate with local initiative to secure sustainable funding and resources by ensuring that innovative programs for refugee-led organization effectively empower and enhance early childhood development in the refugee setting?
Thank you for that critical question. Liani?
Yeah. My question is now, how organizations represented here and those organizations that are not represented here, who are out of the room, can come and empower the initiative of refugee-led organization that we have initiated? How can they come and empower us through their skills, through their financial capacity, through their expertise to support the initiative that we have?
Ismail?
Mine, I will have maybe allow me to have a request, and then I will have a question. My first request to all the audiences in this room today is to change the perspective. Because we people or RLO leaders who have been struggling hard online through website, finding support, Googling, organization helping, for instance, local education, blah, blah, blah. And then when we happen to secure their contact, we reach out to them. That is what we do. Apart from delivering through our local means. But when it comes for the due diligence of most of NGCs here, it always is very tough, based with our capacity. For instance, you are willing to help a refugee-led organization implementing project on their own through your support, but you happen to compose a question that you should have $500,000 US as a running budget. How sure are you that we people with our limited capacity and experience can accommodate that prior budget before you fund us? That is first one that I would like to share in this room. The second is that when it comes for the due diligence, Lola, most agencies don't believe that we people or refugee-led organization, based with our status, first of all, we are refugees. Most of them do believe that we are not permanent resident of that particular space. While some of us have been here for the last 15 years. What What about if you have been doubting with me since 2012 and up to now, I have been living for the more 11 years? What could be your reason why you have been doubtful to me? So what I'm trying to mean is that we people have a capacity, and we're really doing amazing things on the ground. So we kindly request that when you come, please get a time to visit our work so that you can find and elaborate more based on our capacity, and not just limiting on papers, doubting on papers through documentation. So my question now, based with all these and outstanding jobs that we people have been doing, how and what can you contribute to ensuring that all these challenges that we are elaborating here are overcome for the greater and sustainable services of the Refugee-Led organization?
Thank you, Ismail. On that note, we'll break and we'll come back to take your reflections from the audience on some of the questions we've raised. The question is, what can you or your organization, as a member of the Movement Alliance, do to eliminate the specific barriers and challenges shared by these RLOs today? And also, if you are already doing something in your organization to address some of these barriers, please, you can come back and share with us after the break.
Whether you are a forcibly displaced person from Lebanon, from South Africa, from wherever, there are common issues that forcibly displaced persons, be it IDPs or refugees, they face. And so these are common challenges that if we can actually, with the kind of frank talk that I am listening in this room, if we come up with solutions to some of these challenges, definitely they will equally fit well wherever displaced children, displaced women, displaced men, and refugee-led organizations are found. Because there might really be some little difference in dynamics based on the cultural setting of a particular country or community. But the basic thing there is clear. I want to actually dwell more on the early child development because that is why we are here. And I say that there is a common thing. Whether a child is forcibly displaced wherever in this global world, there are things that are at work in that child. There is trauma in that child. There's lack of basic needs in that child. There is fear in that child. And as a matter of fact, the child does not even know what is next. Because if the parents don't know where they are going, the child likewise. So I really want to applaud my brother, Liani, for tackling this issue on climate change. Because sometimes some people, just like I heard the presenter say, some people look at climate change, how does it go with children? And I want to say we are talking about a holistic kind of early child development. And we must bring our children to the level of being environmentally, bring them to that environmental awareness. Because we are facing global warming now. And if we don't bring our children to that position of being environmentally aware, to become environmentally friendly, they will destroy the ecosystem. They will not know the life cycle of trees. And so it's equally a very important issue that we mainstream this tree planting, which you are doing, and so that our children get to know it from that position, since we are really talking about a holistic type of early childhood development. And I want to, just as we're talking, I jotted down something. There is also a kind of community engagement and social skill development. You know, let me say this. There are some parents who do not really have the time to play with their children at home. Not even because they hate the children, but because they don't have the logistics to keep them and keep the children. Some of these are not even their biological parents, and so they don't really have that bond. But when you bring in this tree planting issue, and you cause both the parents and the children to join you, and you go out doing this planting in the community, there are two things that it drives home. It brings the parents closer to the child, because the child looks at it more from a playing activity. And it bridges that gap of always looking at your father or your uncle with some degree of fear. Now, what if we look at it from the perspective of this? Because every displaced person is out of his origin, his community of origin, be it your country or your community. And in most cases, the children of the host community and the children of the displaced persons do not always go together because they've never known themselves. But during this tree planting exercise, which is a community issue, you see children of the host community and the children of the displaced people, they join together with their parents in planting these trees. And as a result, when they meet themselves again in school, that aspect of fear is no longer there. They are bound to concentrate. When they go to fetch water in the streams and they meet these people, they are bound to concentrate. There's that idea of fear. So I can talk on and on, but I want to say, for the sake of time, I want to applaud you, brothers, and you've done a good job. I trust that these barriers will be addressed sincerely in this room, because what we play in Kakuma, we play in Nigeria, we play in Lebanon, we play in South Africa, play wherever, because we have unique challenges.
Thank you very much to the panel. It's been super inspiring. My name is Camilla Rüdiger. I'm from Plan International, Denmark. I mean, a million thoughts in my head right now, but to boil it down, I think I hear you say capacities and resources. That's kind of what I take from your sort of inputs and requests. And I want to throw another thing into this one, which is contextualization, because a lot of the projects that I am aware of under Plan International are really trying hard to contextualize the resources that we're developing, and within the communities, with the parents, working with community leaders to make them relevant so they can be used and applied. And I think that's just something that I want to share, because what I'm trying to say is there are resources. And I think what would be interesting is trying to find a matchmaking portal. So there is an easier way of connecting with you, the locally led organizations, and some of the resources that are being developed. And I think there's a lot of Lego Foundation funded projects in this room, in particular in the ECD arena, that have excellent materials and that have these capacities to also engage and advise. And so these things are out there, but I guess the question is, how can we help better connect, and how can we help better share these things and work with you, and take sort of feedback from you in the sense of what you need, what is missing. I think that's it. Thank you.
I'm Jamila Razak. In this meeting, I'm here as a global expert advisor to MMA, but I work with different organizations globally, with different networks. And one thing which was coming to my mind, listening to all your wonderful work, and especially with reference to these challenges, it is like, if you have, or if you can, maybe you may already have it. That's why I'm saying that maybe that already exists. That if you have thought about making an alliance of because we are an alliance, and this is what we can present here, that if you have thought about making an alliance of refugee-led organizations who are working particularly on ECD, and then you have one platform on which you can have one voice, or you can bring your needs together and approach those, like Camilla said, like there are some organizations who are already working on the area, have resources. So maybe if you go as a combined force, it would be a stronger voice or something. Thank you.
Thank you, our dear panelists. My name is Stella Keihango Tumwebase. I work with a local organization based in Uganda known as Literacy and Adult Basic Education. I want to pick it up from Camera and talk about how to address a lack of learning or play materials. And I'm going to look at it from a parental perspective. LABE promotes family basic education, and we work with parents. And our entry point is a family. We believe that everyone in the family has a role to play to support the learning process of their own children. So how can we engage parents to create learning and play materials for both indoor and outdoor learning processes? We know that parents were once children, and therefore they played when they were children. So they have their childhood games they used. So how do we engage parents to support their children to play those childhood play games they had? Parents have that indigenous knowledge. They have stories. They were once children and they were told stories by their own parents, and therefore they have these stories. Whether they are literate or not literate, they will tell because they know their local language. So they can tell the stories to their children, and these stories have moral support, and they're able to aid their children's learning. There's a lot you can use, you can bring from their families and create learning materials. Imagine these empty bottles. They are there in their communities and their homes. So you fill these with stones and the child will shake, and that's the learning material. So let us see how best we can engage parents to create learning materials for their own children to use. Invite them at the learning center. Create a day when they are coming to the learning center to create these materials. There is a lot, because in early childhood, 5 to 6 years, we are not looking at academic. We are looking at simulation. And there's a lot the parents can play their own role, collecting materials within the environment, make sticks, stones, mold out of clay, and imagine a parent participating with their own children in creating such materials. The parents will own it, but also the children will also own it. So let's engage. I have more we can share for what we have used in our organizations. I can also share with you how we can take it further. We participated. Yesterday, Camila talked about National Play Day, and we participated, LABE-led one of the region, and we mobilized the materials. We mobilized the parents. I'm telling you, parents were extremely very happy. It was like, I can also play a role? You mean also this can be used for child's learning? We've been minimizing, so such activities are very, very empowering, and we'll be able to support their children to learn and love learning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, for your inspiring, discussion, and you highlighted over here. I'm Sazia from BRAC, IIT BRAC University, Bangladesh. This is very much encouraging for all of us who are, in this room. Just I want to echo with Camila and also her, like a lot of resources maybe we have in different organizations. From BRAC, we are working in Bangladesh for the Rohingya children, and as many of you know, that last 7 years we are working over there. We have our partnership with our IRC, Sesame, other organizations as well, and BRAC International we are working on in the Uganda, Tanzania, Sierra Leone, other country. You mentioned some challenge over here, like the material, limited spaces, or the well-being of the children, of the parents. So this type of, model already tested that is available. So we need to make that connection. I think MMA could be the best place to make that connection. How we can reach you, or you can reach other people as well. So maybe sometimes we don't need to prepare again, because so many contextualized material is there. And in our models, we have engaged the community parents as well. They are making with the low-cost, no-cost resources. So you don't need to, make so many, the costly materials. So that connection, I am requesting to the MMA person, maybe they can make this connection. Thank you very much.
Yeah, dear Leani, Matavishi, and Faulu, thank you for what you are doing in the community. So echoing to what Stella has said, in as far as making available local materials to make interacting the environment of these children, because they learn through play. So I would like perhaps to let you know that it is better also to have sensitization to this parent, because some of them don't necessarily know their roles as parents in as far as engaging with their children. They think it's only the work of the teachers when they send these children to the centers. So That's the role of caregivers to do, the educators to do. They leave this tech, yet they all have significant role to do in as far as the education of their children is concerned. So it is better to have this sensitization so that they can have this feeling of ownership. They own that they could also have dedicated time to their children. This is done in Uganda with Right to Play, having more engagement with parents on parental meetings, parental education. So they have to engage this parent on how to play with their children, on how to dedicate even 30 minutes a day to play with their children. Through play, they are developing literacy, numeracy skills, emotional, cognitive, and ethical development. And this is really paramount, significant if we can also bring it together, because the early experience is really paramount to our behavior and emotion when we are adult, according to Sigmund Freud. So we need really to show this to our parent so they can feel it. Sometimes they are getting busy, as Cheng said. They are sometimes busy, they're looking for survival, but we need also to show them, so you are busy, but can you have some moment? Even 20 minutes a day. Can you have it? Dedicate your time. This builds the feeling of attachment, and these children want to grow very well. Thank you.
I have less of a question and more of a challenge for all of the international NGOs and donors in the room to really flip this conversation on its head. And instead of thinking about challenges like refugee-led organizations don't have appropriate financial systems, or they're not able to X, it's really a capacity gap on our side. We're the ones that don't have systems that are appropriate for reaching the people we want to reach. We're the ones that don't have trust mechanisms that are appropriate for the organizations we want to be working with. We're the ones that have the capacity gaps. And I think once we kind of flip that narrative and start thinking about what the shortcomings of our own organizations are, that creates the to-do list for us. It's not build up the capacity of an organization to meet standards that aren't necessary. It's us to create appropriate standards. And I do want to give recognition to the Hilton Foundation here, because I think they've been really remarkable in leading a lot of this work from the donor side, not only in their own work, but in bringing other donors to the same conversation. I know there's a lot more work to be done, but there's a lot of innovation happening there, in part because they've looked at their own practices first, rather than thinking of it as a deficit of the organizations that we want to be working with and funding.
I'm really impressed with the conversation, especially the way the conversation is moving. And I, being friends to my colleagues there, I'm really impressed with how we are leading this conversation at the moment. And I also like Stella, Emoe, okay, good. Her intervention. When she says, it's us failing, and it's us, we do not have systems that allow the RLOs to even come and tell us, this is what we're facing, even in their own way. However they speak it, are we able to understand what they're saying? And whatever they're saying, how does that make sense to us? And I remember one of the colleagues said, we want you to come on ground and see what is happening, rather than even listening to us alone and looking at our papers. Because what is happening on ground is immense. I could say that. It's immense than what they're speaking about, for example. But also, without forgetting the concept around money. Money. We can talk about parents, yes, of course. But who is going to mobilize those parents? Who is going to speak to them and remind them their roles? And are we going to get someone who is responsible of his family and tell that person, come and volunteer with us? Because at the end of the day, that person will come back to the family, and the kid will say, I need food. I want to go to school. I need clothes. And sometime when we give these funds, we say, this is what we want you to do, and we want you to do in this specific time frame. And once the fund is over, the project is over that way. And again, I remember, I don't know if it was Simeon who said, or if it was Degan, who said, I think she said multi-year funding to the RLOs, regardless of how we view them and how we even say, they don't have capacity. But what is it that we are doing so that they get that capacity? And what is it? Of course, today we have them here today. It's a plus. And I always look at what happens during a time, because we cannot talk about my future without me. Talk about my future with me so that I understand where I need to learn and what am I going to work towards, so that also in 10 years to come, I am this kind of a person. And my community should look this way. But at the end of the day, even if we talk about all these things, we talk about localized material. We talk about parental, engagement. We've talked about tree planting. We've talked about all this. There's nothing will happen without resources. And these resources will be either this flexible funding, multi-year funding, trust. And that trust has to be even mutual relationship. And one colleague even mentioned here, am I able to come and say, our finance, can you match your finance and our finance for at least a 1 day or a 1 hour session in a month, for us to even be able to share and experiences? And that's a plus for even the RLOs, because even we would say some of their, should I say, the positions that some of them hold still needs more capacity sharing, still needs more interaction with other people with different experiences and sharing. So it's important that we also reflect onto those points as we keep reflecting about what do they need to do at a local level, at what, because no one will be here without even also expecting and say, I also need a salary at the end of the month. I also need a salary. And they also need the same, as far as we talk about they need to support their community, but they also need a motivation and something that they need to take back to their families and say, the work I'm doing, of course I'm supporting my community, but I also need to feed you as a family. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing your perspectives, for sharing all of your great insights. And I think I will be kind of short because I think I have little to add to what has been so eloquently shared by everyone around the room and also by Degan and by Simeon. So I want to really address also the first challenge, right? The mistrust from donors and from philanthropic organizations. And of course, Simeon has already explained a little bit, like, what Porticus is doing with refugee-led organizations also in the camp, in Kakuma camp. But I think also on a broader level, really around like not only funding, but really how to create more trust. And I mean, just a few practical things, that we have been doing within Porticus to really build trust. I think, first of all, it is really an internal journey within Porticus, right? Similar to what was shared also about the work that Hilton has done. It really starts with really critically reflecting internally on what are the problems what are the issues that are keeping the problem in place, right? So it's really even creating an internal roadmap within Porticus, speaking to finance, speaking to comms, speaking to HR. I mean, there's changes that need to happen in so many different levels. And I think all of us here around the table, around the tables, I think, we have a really important role to play in actually changing dynamics within our own organizations, because we might be bought in, right? But we have a role to play in also convincing others and getting others on board within our organizations. Because, first change needs to happen within yourself, then within the organization that you're part of, and then you can share it and can expand it. So we are really on this journey within Porticus. We're not there yet, but we're trying, we're learning, and we're also really trying to share this with others, like our successes, but also our failures. We've been speaking to other philanthropic funders, but what we're also really practically doing is when we're organizing meetings, like for the co-creation workshops, for example, for our work in Kakuma, we invite refugee-led organizations to the same table, right? So we have UNHCR, we have representatives of refugee-led organizations, we have Cohere, we have others, all sitting in the same room, talking about the same problems, right? So to really make sure that, to recognize that everyone, like refugees, first of all, they know the problems themselves best. They have solutions, and they have really important assets to add, right? So funding is only one of the assets. International organizations, UN, might have connections to add, but everyone, all these assets together, by bringing it together, this is how we really create change. And I think this is why it's so great that at MMA, we're becoming more and more diverse and really recognizing the valuable assets that everyone has to add, and also the important role that everyone has to play in, first of all, changing our own thinking, then changing the thinking within our organization, and then expanding it.
Yesterday, as part of our work planning through MMA, we have committed to doing advocacy for locally led organizations. I have personally built an expertise in building capacity around advocacy for whomever who wants it. So if you'd like to organize a training, we can absolutely do that through MMA. I'm happy to support or lead or whatever it is that makes a difference if we can get enough people together. So just trying to solve for that particular challenge, we're happy to offer that. Thanks.
Just to get your name on the camera as well.
Alana, IRC.
Thank you.
And Katie.
I'll just add from the IRC's perspective and also building upon Emily's great comments and Diwarka, and also Jamila. So, I think we do actually have systems in place, but we don't know when to get out of the way. And this is also the comment that Deegan was saying. I think we play a really critical role in connecting funders to local organizations. We're partnering with LABE in Uganda, but we have to know that for the next phase, this isn't for IRC. This is for LABE to take this on, and if we can't identify what our value is, that's our own problem. But we need to get out of the way. I do think that we have resources, we have connections to different amazing curricula and research and other expertise, and that is a value add. But I think we need to really look critically inside and know when we can help establish the trust between the refugee-led organizations and the funders, and we can help be that conduit. So that's our commitment to try to help be that for you. Thank you.
I'm sure you'll all agree with me that this has been an amazing session. It's fantastic to hear from the perspectives of the refugee-led organisations, the innovations, the assets, and I think it's about, just flipping our mindsets to an asset-based approach rather than this constant sort of focus on the deficits. What is it that we're bringing that they need, rather than thinking, actually, what can we do to support the strengths that they're already demonstrating? And I think we've seen that really clearly today. Self-evidently, there are still blockages in the system. The resources are not flowing efficiently, effectively. They're not getting to where they need to be. I feel that the Moving Minds Alliance is uniquely positioned to address some of these challenges. We can act as an honest broker, joining some of the dots between these diverse actors across the system. I can't say we've completely got it nailed yet. We're working on it, but we do have a fundamental commitment. All of our priorities are outlined are supported by our commitment to supporting locally led and refugee-led initiatives. We want to see independent and sustainable local actors. We know that this is what's required if we're going to respond to the needs of children and communities long term. You guys are there to stay. We shouldn't be. So, as we diversify our membership, we can increasingly become a microcosm of the system, and we can work within and between ourselves to understand how to join the dots and get these resources flowing more efficiently. As more RLOs engage with us, we'll learn more about how to do this, and we'll get better. We're at the beginning of this journey, like so many of the people in this room, but we hear your call to action. And we're with you on this. You've already got some really strong fellow travellers, Hilton, Porticus, but the Moving Minds Alliance, we are going to work to try to resolve some of these really critical blockages in the system. So I just want to say it's been a fantastic session.